Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and I was thinking about making one of these. This is just like a little hover fighter thing that I made. It's real small, like real small. But I decided I wanted to make a robot. So yesterday, when I was making my robot, I sacrificed one of these plastic paintbrushes, and I've been throwing these away. And I thought to myself, why am I throwing these away? Because these have potential to be a lot of coolness. I don't know how deep that goes. Let's snip it. So I have a little piece there. I'm going to use that for his shoulders. I'm going to use this for his body. I'm going to make a cool robot out of this. So let's start with the base. I'm going to snip this little piece of plastic off the side here. I'm going to get some glue and some cardstock. That's only mildly hot. It'll be alright. I'm going to peel that out of my finger. Alright, cool. So what I have here is a nice little start for my base. When I say start, it's just going to be my base. I'm not going to really do a whole lot more with it. I'm going to get a cutting knife though. Something that cuts, and that is a knife. Okay, and that's going to be my base. It's a little smaller than an inch, but it will hold our guy up, I promise. And I want him to be standing on something, so I need something to be like a pile of garbage there. So all I'm going to do is cut a couple pieces of cardstock or of cardboard to stack up on the base to have him standing on it. So that my base is a little more interesting. Okay, and now this is real floppy and bendy, see that? So I'm just going to sturdy that up a little bit. Like this. Okay. Oop. When that dries, it should be pretty sturdy. I'm going to put a tiny dab of glue on here. I'm going to mount that there. Okay. Get rid of spider webs quickly. And loose pieces of cardboard. I'm going to let that cool for a little bit while I work on my body. So to make the shoulders, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip this off with a flat side. I'm going to get a dab of glue on the top there. I'm going to mount the shoulders onto that. And I'm just going to move that around until I get it kind of centered in how I want it to sit. Just like that. Now I'm going to kind of melt that in place. It's a little off center. So I'm just going to, instead of undoing it, I'm just going to snip it off so it's the T is even. The best I can. And my robot body is a little tall yet. So I'm going to shrink that down some too. Just like that, okay? So that's going to be the main body of my robot. The head I used yesterday was actually a pretty good head, but I think today I'm going to use this bigger kind of bead to be the head. I don't know yet. So I have some toothpicks here that I thought would be good for the arms and legs. So I'm just going to take a toothpick, cut it in half, bend those pieces to be my elbows and knees. just like that. And I want them to be about the same. So to make sure they're the same, oops. All I'm gonna do, come on, dude. Come on, fingers. All I'm gonna do is hold them up and make sure they're kind of ballparky. Just like that. All right, so that's gonna be my legs. He's gonna be up on this oh, come on, that's gonna cool before I get it on there. There we go. He's gonna be standing up on this platform, so what I want to do, I'm not squirting any glue out, I'm just heating that up a little bit so I can move it. Okay. And this leg's going to be a little more bent because it's going to be up on that platform. So to make sure that it stays sturdy, let's get a tiny bit of glue in there so it doesn't break apart. Then we'll get them on the base. Standing on that. Whoops. Get a dab of glue. And a dab of glue. We're just going to stick him on there appropriately and hold him there for a second while that cools. So it looks something like that. Then we need arms. So I think I'm going to do one of his arms with a toothpick. Like that. And then his other arm, I'm going to use this piece here. It's like a little thicker. I'm going to cut into that so I can angle this a little bit. And then he can hold his rifle. This guy's going to have a rifle, by the way, if you didn't catch that. Okay, something like that. I'm going to snip that off so it's shorter. Then I'm going to get some of those little teeny beads I used yesterday to be, spider webs I didn't like. I'm going to get the some of those little beads I used yesterday. I wanted to use this one for a head, but it just seems too big and silly, so I'm not going to be able to. No problem. So let's get some tweezers and a couple of these little beads. And you can use whatever you have. You can just use little cut-off pieces of, you don't even need beads. You can use little cut-off pieces of, can't even do English today. Cut-off pieces of paintbrush or dowel or whatever you have. As a matter of fact, instead of beads, maybe we should do that, since to make his hands, we should use these, since we're already kind of using these in the craft. We'll use these to make his hands. really, we just need one of his hands to be like a fist. So what I'm going to do is learn how to hold that. Oh, come on, Chris. There we go. Like that. Okay. And then his other hand, we can make out of a piece of cardstock. And we just want to curve that so that the rifle sits in it nicely, like a cradle. Okay. And then we want to make the body of our rifle. And I think using this plastic here for the brush would be good for that. Now, in retrospect, curving this hand up and gluing it onto the rifle first would have been smarter, but we didn't do that. Let's get a little piece of extra card popsicle stick and put a scope on that rifle, even though robots don't need scopes, I would guess. There it is. Something like that. And then we need a head. We use this bead for a head. We could, maybe. We can make him a backpack. I don't know how I want to do that. Let's get a piece of cardstock. And maybe a thin piece of wire. To be like a antenna. We'll let that cool. Ooh. So we're going to mount that here, just like that. We're going to let that cool. We're going to wrap that. Actually, you know what would be easier to use than that? Let's get a little thin piece of masking tape. So to do masking tape is going to be a lot easier. So all we're going to do with our masking tape is cut it that way. Stick that to cardboard to get rid of it. cut it that way. This reminds me of doing old Star Wars builds. I used to use a lot of masking tape for trim on stuff or for layers on stuff when I was doing a lot of Star Wars builds back in the day before I didn't have a YouTube channel then. I was just making stuff. And where I learned for using masking tape from was from my Uncle Joe. He saw me making something and he said, why don't you use masking tape? And I didn't think of it, so that's why I didn't use it. So I'm going to get that, mount that to his back, straight up and down like that. Okay, now those spikes on the shoulders, that other one, I thought looked pretty cool. So I'm going to do something like that with this. And even though I don't have those same little pieces, I'm just going to get a little bit of this glue here on his shoulder. Okay, something like that. Now, you would think to yourself, you would hold a rifle, you know, I was in the military, you hold a rifle like, you know, contorted to where you could aim it with your eyes, but robots don't need to do that. So I assume that's kind of like how you saw the troopers in Star Wars just doing whatevs, you know. All right, so let's sturdy him up. Let's get a piece of cardstock here. I guess we didn't need those beads. Cardstock, a little bit of stupid glue. Another paintbrush that might become a robot someday. Oh, look at that, came off. It came off there. The whole leg is loose. Before we start painting him the rest of the way, let's get baking soda and fix that leg. Okay, here we go. Back to business. Need a little bit more glue. Boop. He's pretty sturdy. We're going to need to do a little touch-up work down here to make sure that he's sturdy there. And I want to make sure that spike's good and sturdy too. I don't want that coming loose. Okay, so this piece here, this whole thing is kind of moving. So we're just going to sturdy that up with some super glue again. He's looking like he's going to be a lot sturdier now. Yeah, he's super sturdy. Homeboy's not going anywhere. Let's do some decorations. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose real quick. Okay. Now we want that like thing on his head that we did on the other guy. It's kind of like his face thing. We'll put one on his backpack, maybe two. We'll put two on his backpack. Oh, I lost one. I lost it. There it is. Went right into the goo. Okay. Maybe one on his shoulder up here. And I don't know. Let's get a piece of really thin cardstock and make a couple pieces to glue to them like that are 3D. So all I'm doing is cutting really thin, ridiculously thin strips. See that? They're tiny. Just a little. I'm going to dip it in my glue. I'm going to set it on his arm. Like that. Oh, shit, I lost it. It's gone forever. Oh. That's going to look interesting, I'm thinking, when we're done. Maybe, maybe not. Kind of hoping it looks like a little piece of like armor or something. There's a little bit too much of that hand sticking up there in the front. I'm going to try to carefully snip that off, just like that. And there's a little bit too much on the back. There we go. I just cleaned that hand up a little bit. We have a little bit of sticky outy pieces here of hot glue. There's one coming off his butt. I'm just going to clean those up a little bit on the base there. I'm going to get rid of that. He's looking pretty sturdy and pretty cool. I want to sturdy this up a little bit. Where's my brush? That'll make it easier. Oh, my brush is hard as a rock already. It's okay. I'm just going to smear that around on there. Make sure that's good and saturated and glue and sturdy and not coming apart. That's all I'm doing. Cool. All right, so you could base coat this dude in whatever you wanted, really. You could use spray paint or paint or whatever. I'm going to use spray paint, I think. That super glue and baking soda kind of gives them a surface that's really good to paint on. If I'm going to be honest, it's holds paint super great. All right. So let's take a look at them before we paint them up. An Assaultron, maybe? I don't know. Let me go get some paint and we'll come back and take a look at them. I'm just using Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover Paint and Primer Flat Black. And I do it inside of a box. And I use a painting sleeve. So if you're going to wonder how I'm coming back to having clean hands and stuff, I'm going to throw my paint back in the other room. It's cold in here. Okay. And we're just about satisfied with the way this dude looks for sure. He's going to be sick. So the last one I did in kind of like blues and yellows. This one's going to have more of a military look to him. Okay, so to achieve that military look, I'm getting a piece of cardboard to use to paint on. So the first go-to color here is OD green. I'm going to paint my whole robot OD green. I'm just going to use cheap paint and a crappy brush. Get a little bit of water on my paint. There we go. But I think I pretty much got them coated here for the most part. Now I'm going to get some metallic black. If you don't have metallic black, just use what you have. I'm going to get some dark brown for the base. I'm going to get a metallic copper color. Okay, I'm going to get a smaller brush to work with. Something that I have a little bit of control over. And I'm going to start with that metallic and the brown mix. I'm going to do his base, trying not to hit his limbs and stuff in the process. Now, how much effort you want to put into this paint job? I mean, how many times are you going to use this thing? What's your ultimate plan for it? I'm going to get a little bit more of that metallic in here and create some variation on the base. Just like that. So then I'm going to get the metallic black we were talking about and a miniature brush. When I say miniature brush, a size 1 or smaller. I'm just going to use paint out of my lid here. I'm going to paint his gun, metallic black. I'm going to paint his backpack metallic black. There's the antenna. I think I got it. I'm going to do his spike in metallic black up onto the shoulder there. And then I'm going to do those little panels we put on his arms and legs. There's like armor pieces. I'm just going to do that real careful. I'm just going to something like that. Maybe one or two of these lines in the middle from that paintbrush. Let's do one, the center one. Something like that. Cool, 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 cool. All right. With that same brush, I'm setting it off to the side for a minute. I'm going to get a bright red to be the eye dot. and maybe the tip of his gun too while we're at it. I'm going to step this up here and blow dry him real quick. Get that black dry. And I do the tip of his gun with just a little dab of red. I think for his back dots, I'm going to use a bright yellow, like I used on the other one. I think it looked good. Something like that. Hit the one on his shoulder with that too. I don't think there was any more dots on him, was there? No, I don't think so. Something like that. Alright, so he's a little plain. We can fix that. I'm going to get a tiny brush. This is called a fractional brush. I'm going to get some white paint. I have to mix it. I'm gonna do a little bit of metallic too while I'm at this. Let's make him look good if we're gonna do this. I'm gonna get a tiny bit of metallic here. You don't need much. I'm gonna get something small to use as a dry brush on him. Let's beat him up a little bit. That's going to take away from the monotony and the boringness of his green. And you don't want to go overboard with this. You just want to make it look like he's been beat up in combat a little bit and he's a little worn from walking around in the wastelands. Nothing too extreme. Something like that. Then we're going to get a white. Oh, that was way too much white. Alright, so using this super tiny fractional brush, I damped it with my tongue because I don't use like a lot of water on these. And I want to make a white star on his backpack or somewhere on him. Back of his head might be a good choice. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Then let's put a serial number on him somewhere. Something like that. Just to make him a little more interesting. I'm going to get that paintbrush, that size 1 I was using, in a light blue color. Just to add a little more different color on him somewhere. I'm going to paint the front and back of that scope with that, just by putting kind of a thick paint dot there. So let's turn him around and get a good look at him. What do y'all think? Pretty fun, pretty easy, right? You can make a ton of different robots like this. I'm going to keep making them because I love them. Let's see him next to a regular miniature. He should be pretty tall. I'm hoping he stands about 7-8 foot tall, and he does. perfect. So they're bigger than a person. They're cool. You can do cool stuff like this, like put them on different bases and make them look interesting and doing different poses with little effort. And they're robots, so if you get proportions off or anything, it doesn't matter. So anyways, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, leave a comment. Really leave a comment. That matters a lot because I enjoy the comments. The other stuff, I don't know if I enjoy it because I don't know how well it works or doesn't work, but the comments do work for me. I get to see them and I love them. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Play this in reverse and you can get some neat crafting tips or lose your soul, whatever happens there. I'm not sure. Goodbye.